If we're not putting into it and we keep taking, at some point there's not going to be anything there in excess. It says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. So tonight we're going to talk about stay ready. Y'all ready for this? This is a parable straight from Jesus out of Matthew chapter 25. It's the parable of the 10 virgins. I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then we're going to break this thing down together. So it starts there. This is verse 1 through 13 out of the NIV. Starts out verse 1. Says, at that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps but did not take any oil with them. The wise ones, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish one said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, our lamps are going out." "No," they replied, "there may not be enough for both of us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the others also came. "Lord, Lord," they said, "open the door for us." But he replied, "Truly, I tell you, I don't know you. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour." So there's always dual meanings to every parable that Jesus ever spoke. Right? There's a physical, literal side, and then there's the spiritual side to it. And so what I want to understand about parables is that Jesus commonly used real world earthly examples that people can understand in order to explain heavenly principles that are hard to understand. That was the purpose of parables. And in my opinion, that's what any preacher should do when they're bringing the word, right? We're going to preach we should do the same thing that the greatest preacher that ever lived did, right? And so commonly over and over again, Jesus used the real life examples. I know it's hard for you to grasp what I'm trying to tell you, so I'm going to use something that you understand fully, and then you can kind of see the parallel to it, and that's how you can understand this spiritual principle. That's the way that Jesus preached. And so I want to explain the literal for a second, right? Obviously, it's basically like 10 virgins that were there. They were commonly an accessory to any wedding party at the time. And so what you're supposed to do is you were supposed to wait, because obviously they didn't have a cell phone to let anyone know when they were coming, right? And so the bridegroom, the groom would arrive at the party, and then they would go in together, right? And then the doors were shut, and their parties were like days, right? They would have the whole wedding, all the feasts and everything. That's the literal, explanation of what's going on here. The spiritual explanation is the 10 virgins. You can basically equate them to like 10 random believers, basically, right? And so the lamps that they were carrying represents the outward expression of faith and readiness. Like, in other words, maybe it's someone that says, I am a believer. I do believe in God. Maybe it's someone that goes to church occasionally, right? Maybe it's someone that's saying, hey, I'm just trying to be a good person, right? It's some type of outward sign that they believe in God. And interesting about this is the oil represents the inner spiritual preparation and the personal relationship with God that believers need in order to sustain their faith. It's interesting. It's like, what are we putting into the lamp, right? That's how the lamp works, is by putting the oil into it. So in other words, what are we putting into our relationship with God? We can show everyone the outward signs. We can tell everyone we're a Christian and throw the bumper sticker of the church on the back of the car and show up a couple times, right? But what are we doing? What are we pouring into that? What's going into that inner spiritual growth and that personal relationship with God? That's what the oil represents here. So obviously that could be a variety of things, whether it's prayer, whether it's reading the word, right? Both hearing and taking action on messages that we hear. Can also come in conversation with people about God, hanging out with other believers. In other words, what are we putting into this relationship? And so what was interesting about the parable here is in verse 3 says the foolish ones, they took their lamps, but they didn't take any oil with them. But the wise ones, they took extra. They put oil in jars along with their lamps. So this tells me that the foolish ones came into this with zero in reserve. Right? While the wise ones, they had an overflow. They had an excess. They had an abundance. So the moral of the story is make sure that you have enough gas so when it all runs out, like you're good and you don't have to enter into that chaos that's going on out there in the streets when the gas runs out for the storm. Now, the moral of the story is to make sure that we have an excess, we have an overflow to rely on that's going to help us to get through rough times or maybe some spiritual low times. And break this down even further because this is important tonight. Every relationship, including the one with God, is like a bank account. Every relationship that we have in this lifetime, including the one with God, is like a bank account. It works just like a real bank account. What do you do in a real bank account? You're either making deposits or you're making withdrawals out of it. Right? Deposits means we're putting something into it. So just like we put money into the bank or direct deposit with our check, when we deposit into a relationship, we're putting something into that relationship. We're adding to it. We're bringing something of value and we're putting it into that particular relationship. And when we're doing a withdrawal, we're taking something out of it, right? We're taking something from it. That better be the only withdrawal that any of us are doing from now on. Drawing out of these spiritual bank accounts, right? These relationship bank accounts. But I want you to understand, because this is real. Make sure you get this. I don't care what relationship it is. We're either putting something into it or we're taking something out of it. All right? So, does anyone have that friend that's always asking for something, always seeing what they can get from you, always needing your help, and giving you nothing back in return? If you don't, it might be you. We're going to go back to that. Right? But see, the problem with that is the relationship probably isn't going to be very strong. If anything, it's probably going to come to an end at some point because the other person is constantly wanting, taking, bringing that relationship bank account down to the point where at some point it's going to say insufficient funds. I don't have anything left to give you. And that really spoke to me through this, guys, that our relationship with God is the same exact way. What we want it to look like is for there to be an excess in that account. So when we go through some rough times, there is enough in there to make a few withdrawals in a row and not come up as insufficient funds. You understand? We got to have that excess in there. And so number one, we got to treat every relationship, including the one with God, like a bank account. And are we making enough deposits on a routine basis so that when we go through some rough or different times, that there is enough in there to make a few withdrawals in a row without coming up as insufficient funds? If we're not putting into it and we keep taking, at some point there's not going to be anything there in excess. So the goal is like we put into that relationship as much as we can. It's not going to be perfect 365 days a year, right? But when we put in, we have an excess amount build up. So if we have to make a few withdrawals in a row, it doesn't leave us in this empty place. I'm not talking about just seasons where it seems like things are going wrong. I'm talking about the distracted times. I'm talking about the times when life is so good and we're just so busy taking care of everything and everyone, and we're going here, there, and everywhere, and we just don't have the time to make a deposit on that particular day. I'm talking about those dry seasons. I don't know if you've been there, but I have, where quite frankly, we're just not feeling this whole God thing at the present moment. I'm so stressed with the responsibilities. I got to make this money, take care of the kids, go to these meetings, do all this stuff. And man, I'm just done, man. I don't even have anything to put into this. I don't even want to crack this Bible open, right? We're getting real here tonight. We need to start now when things are going well, or at this particular moment, we need to start making deposits into this account. So at some point we can make some withdrawals during those seasons that we just described, and it doesn't leave us coming up empty. And if someone's sitting here tonight thinking, well, that'll never happen to me, I'll never go through any of those seasons. Let's go back to verse 5 again, where it says, the bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. In other words, they all got caught napping, even the ones that had the excess, even the ones that thought they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. They got caught napping also. Guys, everybody goes through those seasons I just described. And I'm going to be real with you here tonight. If you haven't yet, you're probably going to at some point in the near future. And I'm just trying to get you prepared. I'm just trying to get you to stay ready for when those moments happen. Trust me, you want to be putting in those deposits into that spiritual bank account now. So when it comes that time to make a withdrawal, we still got some in there, guys. It's not just going to take us to this place of giving up or depression or whatever that looks like. Start building that excess now. Look at those verses 6 through 9 there, kind of that second paragraph. It says, at midnight, the cry rang out, here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him. Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish one said to the wise, well, give us some of your oil, because our lamps are going out. No, they replied, there may not be enough for both us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourself. Man, I love it. Like so many people, maybe even on the outside, thinks like Jesus was just like Mr. Nice Guy 24/7. But some of these parables, like it gets real in here, man. Like there's some savage stuff going on, and we just learned right from the past few weeks, like people turn savage when it's all going down. Right? I mean, the Manatee County Sheriff's Office had to post officers at every single gas station because people were sitting there fighting for the gas because they're cutting in line, letting their buddies in, people getting in fist fights, right? People running the whole grocery store, bowling over old women just to get the last waters or the food that was in there. Man, you saw people turn savage when everything was going down. It's kind of, they were like, hey, man, I don't know what to tell you. You need to go get your own oil, right? But what's interesting is, this is a principle, man, that I've had to learn again and again, and I've had to learn again recently. I want you to get this tonight. You don't have to get ready when you stay ready. You don't have to get ready when you stay ready. Think about what just occurred, guys. All that panic that we saw during those storms, right? Most of that was from people who were not prepared, who were not ready for this. Now, I'm not talking about the panic of being in fear for your life. That's a whole different kind of panic. I'm talking about people just going crazy, losing their minds, taking all the gas, getting all the groceries. Why? Because they were not prepared. They were not ready for this storm to come. So everyone just kind of lost their minds during that process. In other words, everyone's reacting to a situation that they were not prepared or ready for. You get this? In order for things to not catch us off guard like that, we have to be ready for anything that comes our way. Simple fix to what we just went through, right? Not to say that I got it all figured out, but I've learned from the past hurricane seasons, come June 1st, that's the first day of hurricane season. I told Bonnie, load up on all the groceries. Like, load up on the waters, all the canned goods, the toilet paper, like the paper to everything that they're going to go crazy for. Load up on it now, and then we'll just keep that stash in reserve, and we'll just keep ordering more so that when it all goes down, right, we are ready for that. We're not getting caught off guard. And guess what? If a hurricane doesn't come, great. We were ready, right? We had everything ready to go, so we didn't have to take place in that total chaos panic. And so I'm calling us guys to take this principle out of this room into our own lives. Because I promise you there is going to be some situations that are going to come for us. And I'm just inviting you to stay ready for anything. Like, stay ready, be ready for that incident to happen at the sober living house that you're staying at. At some point, something crazy is probably going to take place there, right? But when we stay ready, instead of just reacting to everything that happens, we can respond in a much better manner if we're ready for everything that comes our way. Take this into everything, y'all. Be ready, because at some point, there's some craziness that's going to happen in your relationship with your spouse. Bonnie knows. There's going to be a fight. Someone's going to do something to rub the other person the wrong way. You may think it's all green right now. Everything's great. We're just together. We love each other so much. Something's going to happen at some point. I guarantee you, right? But when we're ready, right, we can respond a lot better when that situation comes our way. And we can go on and on with this. Be ready for the kids to act a fool or for a crazy situation to occur. Right? Be ready for your coworker to get slick or some drama to occur at your workplace. Be ready for an opportunity that will present itself at some point that you could get high or drunk and nobody's going to know. You can get away with it completely. It's just you and God. Because at some point that opportunity is going to present itself. I guarantee you. And so number 2, y'all, number 2 on the back there. You don't have to get ready when you stay ready. And when we strive to stay ready for anything, we can handle and respond to situations so much better than when we walk through life with our guard down. I don't know about you, but I've been through some stuff like, man, you thought you heard it all. You thought you experienced everything. And then all of a sudden something crazier happens. And it's like, man, I got to add this one to the list. I didn't see this coming up. But when we're ready, guys, when we stay ready for like anything that could go wrong, any situation that can present itself, I promise you we can handle it in a much, much better manner. And all those situations we just discussed there, I want you to see what the bottom line root cause is, man. God's been laying this scripture on my heart all week. It's 1 Peter 5:8. I threw it on the bottom there for you. It says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. I love that verse. I love when God talks about sobriety. It's right there. It says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. He's looking for the opportunity to wreak havoc into all those situations that we just spoke about. This is something else that I've learned along the way, and I want to share with you because it's been coming up for me again a lot lately. I learned that the enemy, he's going to find out what attacks work great on you, and he's going to come with the same play over and over and over again. My son Jaden, he used to play in the GT Bray basketball leagues, like when he was like from 9 to 11-ish. And this is back when I was, first getting sober. And man, like I was a little more rough around the edges than I am now. So let's just say like it was live up in that gym. Like Bonnie would be like, shut up, stop saying that. I'm screaming from the stands. Other dads on the other team screaming from the stands. Coaches are getting into it. We're staring each other down across the gym. I mean, you would have thought this thing was the NBA finals for the 9 to 11-year-old GT Bray basketball league, man. Like it was crazy in there. And so, I got so many good things happen from that time because Jaden was on this team with this guy you've heard me speak about before, Coach Tom. He's like a great mentor in my life. That's how God brought us together. He wound up being the coach of Jaden's team. And I was staying late for practice and he called everyone in a huddle and he said, hey, all this basketball stuff's great. I want to teach you some real life Christian principles, man. And started teaching these kids about God. And I was like, man, I got to get with this guy. This guy's amazing. But that was his first year coaching, right? So this other coach who's like the seasoned vet of this thing, he like rigged the whole draft so that he had like the kids he wanted, the best kids, not show up to the draft so the other coaches couldn't even look at them. And so he like drafted this whole team of like the best kids. And I was like, bro, we're going to beat this guy. Like every time we played those games, it was war with him in there. I'd be staring him down. It was crazy. And so I told Jade I was going to tell this, and he was laughing. And man, I remember this, and I've talked about it with Jaden for years. This guy would do the give and go. If you know anything about basketball, it's a simple play. He would do the give and go over and over again to number 12. And he would set up on defense, Jaden's team, and they're all running around trying to cover people, and they would keep getting beat, and they would leave that guy open every single time. And I'd be in the stand screaming, it's the same play. It's number 12. He's going to get the ball. It's the give and go every time. Like, I was serious, y'all. I was going crazy. Finally, I'm like, Jaden, call timeout. Take command of the team. Tell everyone to guard number 12. Shut this kid down, man. And so finally they would shut him down, right? But that was funny to me. And to end the story, it was us versus him in the championship, and we wound up beating him for the gold medal. So I was very, very proud of that. I was very proud of the kids. Great night for me personally, and beating that other coach. I remember that stuck with me, and it's come up over and over again. It's the same play. Like, you know what's going to happen next. Why are you not ready for it? Right? And so this came up over and over again, man, when the enemy is attacking me in different areas. Like, he knows what works. He's seen stuff that happened to me. And what is the main goal of the attack? To take my peace, to take my serenity, to get me all mad and upset. And when I would give in and that attack would work over and over again, the same play would occur. And it was always the same attack in the same exact area. To be attacking our marriage. I would come home and here we go again. And Bonnie says something, I say something. I'm like, here it is. And then finally I got to the point where I would come in and Bonnie would say something, and I'm like, you thought you got me. I didn't say a word back. I love you, baby. How are you? Anything I can do? And is there anything I can do to help you out? I'm not falling for it anymore. It's the same attack over and over again. I could go on for hours about attacks with my kids and my stepchild, and over again. And it's the same play. It's the same thing that kept occurring again and again. In our organization, I could tell you things that it's the same thing, getting me tired and distracted so I'm not effective for the kingdom. It's the same play over and over again, y'all. And when I finally recognized this was a game changer. I want you to get this tonight. This is number 3. Have we taken time to assess where and how the enemy attacks us and identify the common areas that it keeps happening in again and again? The enemy loves to run the same play over and over again. Think about it from a war standpoint. Any good general, right, that will tell you if they attack the other side and it works, they're going to attack over and over again if they were able to inflict some damage there. So it's like the devil ain't that smart, man. He's not coming up with all this different stuff. It's going to be the same thing. He can be deceptive at times, but I promise you, take some time to assess your life. Go back and look where you keep getting attacked in this certain area over and over again, and you're going to see it's the same play, y'all. The only goal is to get you upset, to get you off your game, to make you ineffective, to send all of us back out to the life that we're trying to leave so we can be ineffective for ourselves, for our family, and for the people around us, y'all. Guys, I encourage you to take a look at your life and assess where and how the enemy attacks you. It's going to help you to stay ready for when these attacks come next, right? And be ready for the same play to be ran over and over again. Let's look at that last set of scriptures there, verses 10 through 13. It says, but while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived, and the virgins who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the others also came and said, Lord, Lord, they said, open the door for us. But he replied, truly I tell you, I don't know you. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour. Because they weren't ready, They missed out on something big that occurred. They missed out on something special. Obviously, this parable is being used to describe missing out and not being ready for when Jesus comes back. Because Jesus is the bridegroom in this parable, right? Because we never know when that time is going to be. I like this quote when I was doing some research, that this parable describes the necessity of personal responsibility in maintaining one's faith and readiness for Christ's return. Thought that was interesting. But this parable also shows us a few other things. One, I believe that we're all going to be surprised when we get up there one day. And there are probably going to be some people up in heaven that we thought would never make it. And there's probably going to be some people that we thought were shoo-ins, and they're nowhere to be found. Just like happened here. That's a whole nother message. But what it also tells me, especially with keeping in line with our theme of no regrets for this year, is, man, there is such an amazing life that God wants us to live when we're down here on this earth, that many of us have probably missed for a large number of years. It's so much better than anything that we were ever trying to do on our own. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to miss out on any of it, man. I don't want to miss out on anything that God has in store for me. I don't want to miss out on anything that God has in his will and plan for my life. Man, I pray all the time, y'all, like, God, help me to be ready and prepared. Help me to be in a good relationship, a good place in that relationship with you, Lord. Why? Because I never want to miss out on any opportunity that you're ever going to give me. I want every piece of what your will is for my life to happen, Lord. I want to operate and be in the middle of that every single day. And so I want to pray the same thing over you guys, man. Number 4. I really pray that we all realize what an amazing life that God wants us to experience down here on this earth. I pray that God helps all of us to be ready and prepared and in a good place of relationship with him, so that we never miss out on any opportunity, y'all, and are always operating in exactly what God's will is for our life. Pray that over y'all today. I'm gonna pray it over you guys tonight when I get home. And man, truly, that's my hope for every single one of us. I pray that you're so tired of that past life that you were living, that was ineffective, that led to nowhere, that always had you in the same place, the same position, which was losing over and over again. That you suffered, your family suffered, everyone around you suffered, man. I pray that you're so tired of that you finally come to this place of just being like, God, like, I'm just ready. Like, whatever comes my way, help me to be ready and prepared for, Lord. Because I don't want it to take me back out to that place. God, help me to be in a good place, a relationship with you, where I can know when you're nudging me a certain direction, that I can know this is you speaking to me and saying, man, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. That we can know, God, that we for a fact, we're operating within what your will is for us. And more than anything, man, I pray that none of you ever want to miss any opportunity that God has in store for you by missing out on some of these spiritual principles here. You got to start seeing yourself the way that God sees you. Freed us from the slavery of addiction. Bless us in so many ways.
Like it talks about in the Bible, that unity that's going to bring people to Christ.
When you pray those prayers from a place of desperation, no matter what is going on in my life, God has this covered.